just turned it on. Okay. 3 minutes, okay. I just did. I won't talk. She has that seat reserved.
Is your microphone turned on? Should be a little green light in your pocket if it is. Right on top. Good. Excellent.
I guess we're live. Oh, 1 minute. Okay. I've got this microphone on for them.
Okay. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Go ahead.
We are welcoming Shabbat this week with the song Maya Fehayom. It has 5 whole words, but if you'd like to see them on a page, you can find the song on page 10 in your prayer book. Maya Fehayom Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. I don't see enough lips moving. That was the practice run. Now you have to join. Maya Fehayom Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome and Shabbat Shalom. I am pleased to be of service to Rabbi Van and the congregation by joining with Cantor Dave to lead services tonight. Let us begin by taking 3 deep breaths to unburden ourselves from the cares of the week and enter into the peace of Shabbat at your own pace. I invite Tracy Messer and Karen Schneiderman to light the Shabbat candles and say Kiddush over the wine. Continuing to the tradition of lighting candles in the home, which we did during Zoom time, those in the sanctuary can come forward and light candles in our temple home. Page 3.
Help me perfect. Is this on?
It should be.
Okay. Help me perfect my ways of loving and caring. Inspire me to make myself whole so that I may honor your name and create a world of justice and peace. Martin Buber.
Have people light the candles at this time? Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
The heaven and the earth were finished, and all of their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemase v'reishit. Ki hu yom tehila lemikra hekodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim. Ki vanu vacharta, veotanu kidashta, mikol hamim. B'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, inchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Oh, don't go away with that. The opening reading is by Karen Kadar. The universe abounds with gifts. Receive. Open your heart and receive them. Have no expectations. Stay present as bits of grace fall your way. Be grateful for all you receive. Expect little and accept all that is given with good intention. Penny by penny, moment by moment, the universe provides, and we must learn to accept. We rise for the Baruch Hu on page 28 and remain standing through the Shema.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
We read together. Blessed are you, universe, who brings in the evening with a word, in wisdom opening the gates. And I'm sorry, people, this is on the handout that you received. I hope there are enough to go around. There are more people here than I would have expected, which is wonderful. Let's start again. Blessed are you, universe, who brings in the evening with a word, in wisdom opening the gates, and with understanding changing the time and seasons, ordering the stars along their paths in the sky, creator of day and night, rolling back light from day and dark from the light. You make the day slowly fade and bring in the night, dividing between day and night. How great is your name. Living universe, may we always feel your presence in our lives. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings in the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. The Shema is on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. The Va'ahavta is on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught, even before we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. I have always liked this prayer for the image of holding hands, marching together. But this time I read more closely and found that our journey as a people may begin before we stood at Sinai's foot, but rather at the parted shores of history, as the Red Sea divided to permit our escape from slavery. Remembering that event, we sing Mi Chamocha on page 40.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot oseh peleh, Nora tehilot oseh peleh, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, ze Elianu ve'ameru, ze Elianu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
We read together on page 41. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content. Her soldiers home, the song of peace. Rabbi reminds us each week that Hashkivenu asks that when we go to sleep, we actually wake up the next morning. Here are words by Maya Angelou, and you can find them on your handout, that are embroidered on Maya's quilt, and there's a picture of the quilt, which was created by Faith Ringgold and is in the holdings of the Crystal Bridges Museum in Northwest Arkansas. During the picking season, my grandmother would get out of bed at 4, she never used an alarm clock, and creak down to her knees and chant in a sleep-filled voice, "Our Father, thank you for letting me see this new day. Thank you that you didn't allow the bed I lay on to be my cooling board, nor my blanket, my winding sheet. Guide my feet this day along the straight and narrow, and help me put a bridle on my tongue. Bless this house and everyone in it." Hashkivenu 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, לחיים, לחיים. We continue with Vishamru. The words can be found on page 44.
More than the people of Israel have kept the Shabbat. Shabbat has kept the people Israel. Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לתור אותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לתור אותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לתור אותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לתור אותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לתור אותם ברית עולם.
We rise for the tefillah service starting on page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, Baruch atah Adonai michayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
From the bottom of page 55. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things in space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to the holiness of time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Shalom Rav, page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
Of all of our afflicted loved ones. If there are some whom you wish to especially call out, please say their names when my hand passes by your seat in the sanctuary, or share their names in the chat. The text will be on page 253.
שברח אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mikor habracha lahavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Please take a moment for silent meditation. There is a suggested reading on the handout, but let your thoughts take you where they may.
May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer. Yehiyu liratzo. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer. Yehiyu liratzo.
Today's Torah portion is V'yatzeh, and he went out. Rabbi Rick Jacobs commented on this parshat shortly after the massacre at Congregation Eitz Chaim in Pittsburgh. He said, "We're thinking as a Jewish community, dare we go out? Dare we venture forth in a world, since we are living at a moment when the lid is off hatred and bigotry? But we need to go out into this world. We need to go out and be beacons of conscience and kindness and compassion and strength for one another, and shape the values and the policies of our communities." In this light, I'd like to speak about critical race theory. What people call critical race theory is among one of the many fraught ideas in the contemporary culture wars. To start the discussion, we need to be on the same page about what CRT actually is. In the political sphere, being against CRT is a catch-all category for implementing white supremacy, baldly put. It denies slavery, our country's original sin. This movement aims to prevent the history of slavery from being taught in public schools. thereby threatening the future of public education in two ways. First, families opposed to teaching an honest history of the United States may either remove their children from public schools to charter schools where they can control the curriculum, or by homeschooling them. Either way, decreasing the funding for public schools, which to me are the bedrock of American democracy. Second, this movement would dilute the education of our students, offering a whitewashed, literally, account of American history, politics, and policies. In other words, being against CRT is racist. The simplest, perhaps naive understanding of racism is that it is an individual prejudice and choice. On the other hand, the real critical race theory says that racism is baked into our institutions, such as banks and schools at all levels, structures of governance, lawmaking bodies. Its implementation can be seen in redlining, denying mortgages or raising the rates in areas where minorities are present. In the 1930s, the federal government's loan agency literally outlined these areas with red ink on a map. Gerrymandering, so that Black voting power is diluted. Food deserts in Black communities. Setting disproportionately harsh sentences for minor drug violations, and more. Now that the background is set, I come to warn you of a pernicious strain of thought circulating among conservative thinkers, namely that critical race theory is bad for the Jews, that it is anti-Semitic. However, I think the attempt to turn Jews against CRT by making this claim is false. Indeed, I hope to convince you that those who are making the argument are being anti-Semitic. The warning about the anti-Semitism of critical race theory and similar progressive ideas may have gotten its start with a piece by Barry Weiss published in Tablet magazine in 2020. That's a female Barry, B-A-R-I. Ms. Weiss is usually seen as a provocateur, claiming herself to be a liberal who is uncomfortable with the excesses of left-wing culture. She resigned as an opinion writer for the New York Times, accusing the newspaper of caving to Twitter comments that disagreed with her positions. So I look with some caution at her work. Her train of thought appears to be that the liberal world as we know it is disappearing, being replaced by, I quote here, a mixture of postmodernism, postcolonialism, identity politics, neo-Marxism, critical race theory, intersectionality, and the therapeutic mentality, whatever that is. So she's asking us to throw out any interpretation of society and the world and how we understand it that arose after the Enlightenment in the 17th century. Her work has been taken up by others, especially John Lindsay, who expands the critique to include positions regarding the existence and politics of the State of Israel. One of the points in their argument starts with the fact that most Jews are white. Since CRT attempts to explain the institutional and legal ways majority whites have oppressed minority Blacks, Jews, by their whiteness, have the privilege according to whites, and are therefore of necessity and inherently guilty of oppression. Their emphasis, not mine. And also by being in this privileged position, they cannot be discriminated against, requiring them to deny both their history and what makes them Jews in the first place. He doesn't seem to want to decide if Jews are oppressors or the oppressed. Even though the critics of critical race theory rail against identity politics, making Jews monolithic without individual agency is identity politics at its finest. These critics deny or won't recognize that the identity politics of Blacks is simply a reversal of what has been done to them historically, judging them by the color of their skin. The other thing these thinkers forget or ignore is that the systemic racism against Blacks, called out by critical race theory, is exactly parallel to the laws enacted by Nazi Germany to justify the extinction of the Jews. Rather than being in opposition, both minorities share the same repression. It may be that this critique is designed to both discourage American Jews from supporting critical race theory, because doing this might dilute attention away from the increasing anti-Semitism in the United States, and break the traditional bonds between Blacks and Jews, stretching back at least to the Civil Rights era. Post-colonial critiques center on the legacy of colonial occupations on peoples, institutions, and lands. The post-colonial critique here focuses on the occupation of Palestinian lands and Israeli politics, including the attitude toward non-Ashkenazis, which in truth is not post-colonial, but refers to the current situation. Lindsay conflates post-colonialism and racism by saying, Jews are white, Israel is whiteness established in brown lands, and the combined whole provides a hyper-privileged status for Jews, who then get to hide behind a mantle of oppression. Many diaspora Jews and many Israelis agree that this territory is homeland to two peoples. If you would like one point of view as to whether the establishment of Israel is a colonialist project, I recommend the first chapter of former Haaretz journalist Ari Shavat's My Promised Land, in which he describes the visit of his British ancestor Herbert Bentwich to that part of the world at the end of the 19th century. Shavit writes, the Bentwich pilgrims have no doubts. Judea is the place where the persecuted Jewish masses of Russia, Poland, and Romania should be settled. He sees the quiet, the emptiness, the promise. He does not see the land as it is, that there are more than 500,000 Arabs, Bedouins, and Druze in Palestine in 1897. My great-grandfather does not see because he is motivated not to see. He does not see because if he does, he will have to turn back. Remember that they claim that CRT and the other isms require Jews to deny both their history and what makes them Jews in the first place. I think that's backward. CRT and the other isms offer Jews an opportunity to act on their history and what makes them Jews in the first place, to stand in solidarity with the oppressed everywhere, whatever the source of their oppression, whether individual bias or systemic racism. Going back to what Rabbi Jacobs said, shaping the values and the politics of our community. To deny the history of the Jews and the force of social justice inherent in Torah is anti-Semitic. We need to be aware of anti-Semitism wherever it arises, whether from pundits and especially from privileged Jewesses, and say no, never again. We have an anthem, and I have no idea what it is.
By design, wasn't it?
That was by design.
All right. Please allow me to take a sip of water.
Certainly, as I will too.
As Muriel mentioned in her Devar Torah, Jews and African Americans have a long history of mutual support dating back to the Civil Rights Movement and even earlier. I'd like to share with you a little background on the anthem we will be hearing shortly. David Berger, a noteworthy contemporary Jewish composer, was appalled as a boy when he witnessed the segregation in Jackson, Mississippi in 1963. It's still there, I heard. Many years later, in 2010, he wrote Martin's Dream, originally for 3 voices, piano, cello, and flute, based on the text of one of the greatest American speeches of all time. I'm speaking, of course, of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. The Reverend knew his Bible well. and quoted eloquently from the book of Amos. Vayigal kamayim mishpat, utzedakah kanachal etan. Let justice roll down like the water, and righteousness like a mighty stream. You'll hear those words quoted. I could not possibly do this masterful composition justice as a solo singer, so I offer a recording of the Zamir Chorale, singing a choral arrangement which was premiered in 2013. I was among the singers. Please listen and follow the words in your handout if you find that helpful. I hope you are as moved as I am every time I sing and hear this.
We have come to this hallowed place to remind America of the
Thank you for sharing that with us. That was something.
Thank you for the opportunity to do so.
Please rise for Aleinu as able. We will be reading on page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We have reached the point in the service when we remember those who have died recently and at this time in past years. The reading before Kaddish is found on page 288. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. On this day, we remember in Shloshim, Donna Marie O'Brien Coates, Paul Wexler, and we honor the yahrzeits of Irmgard Bayer, Selma Wiener Berkman, Marilyn Bielowski, Anna Blonder, John T. Ebbers, Gertrude Englander, Meyer Firstman, Manuel Foreman, Mary Friedman, Stanley Friedman, Jenny Glassman, Suzanne Herman, Theodore Jacobs, Harry A. Jacobson, Simon Klein, Marguerite Key Lieb, Mildred Mandel, Marvin Marcus, Dorothea N. Massinger, Simon S. Newman, Emmanuel R. Riff, Terry Robertson, Irene Rosenberg, Millie Singer Rosewater, Abraham S. Rubenstein, Jerry Rubenstein, Doris K. Shaw, Anna Curtis Schultz, Terry Robertson Skull, Clement Stanescu, D.C.C. Bacter, David Weingart. May their memory be for blessing. Zichronom Levracha.
We now join our words together on page 294 as one sacred community. Please rise as able as we recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha berichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, Amen.
Would Dan Richards come up for the announcement?
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you to Muriel Letterman for leading us in a very thought-provoking and peaceful service this evening, and for the very insightful Devar Torah, and to our friend Cantor Dave Malecki for the wonderful musical accompaniment and for the inspirational Martin Luther King Jr. speech put to music. If I'd known that I was going to be following Muriel, Dave, and then Martin Luther King Jr., I probably never would have agreed to do announcements tonight. But thank you. I've heard that speech many times. I've read it. I've always admired it, but it really brought a new meaning to hear it to music the way that you brought it to us this evening. So for announcements, the next Kol Nashim Book Club will meet on December 12th, when the group will discuss A History of Love by Nicole Krauss. Join us for the Hanukkah and consecration celebration on December 16th, followed by a dinner. Please RSVP and see the website for details. We will return to our full R10 schedule on Sunday, this Sunday, with 3 more sessions left for this year. And lastly, Rise and Shine continues for the little ones next Saturday, December 10th at Mayfield Library. If you are interested in that, please RSVP to Rabbi Shana. Thank you very much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Our closing song is Tefillah Haderech. It's on page 345.
All right, I am on. May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. May we be sheltered by the wings of peace. May we be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen.
Our closing benediction.
Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God lift up their countenance to you and grant you peace. Ken Yhi Ratzon.
Shabbat shalom.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
And get yourself some challah.
Get some challah and juice out there. Thank you. That was inspired, Dave, choosing that. That was wonderful.
You threw a challenge. I thought, I'm going to find the right song.
Yeah, I would have been really happy with "We Shall Overcome," but you took it up a notch.